Oklahoma is falling apart, and the people who broke it keep getting reelected. Schools can't feed kids, hospitals are closing, SNAP benefits are on the chopping block, and a senator is out here buying stock right before his own state drops a $100 million contract. Welcome back to Mind Mirror. Let's get into it.
They keep saying Republicans are in charge of government. We aren't.
Republicans are in the majority in the Senate. Fact. Republicans are in the majority in the House of Representatives. Fact. Donald Trump, the President of the United States, is a Republican. Fact. Cannot be refuted.
Parents, I'm frustrated. Let me know if you'd be frustrated. I live in Oklahoma. Trump or whatever did the free... No, not Trump. I'm so sorry. The governor did free lunches for all in Oklahoma. It's all free lunches. You don't have to apply. You don't have to do anything anymore, right? Tell me why my school, the kids that the district my students, my boys live in, is not. What is this? Why can... It frustrates me, and this is where I'm frustrated. And it's because, and I know why, we are in a more higher class economically, town. The high school kids drive dualies and big pickup trucks and Denali's and all of the above. So, that everybody is still struggling. We need free lunches in Mustang. This is ridiculous.
The frustration in her voice is so real, you can feel it. Her kids can't get free lunch while the district one town over has it covered, and that makes zero sense. And she mentions the high school kids are driving Denali's and big dually trucks, so the community looks wealthy on paper. But looking rich and being okay are two completely different things. Everybody's leveraged to the max, pretending everything is fine while their kids can't eat at school. That's the Oklahoma illusion right there. Big trucks, empty fridges.
Straight ridiculous. A town over. Free lunches for everybody. All students in the whole United States of America should be on free lunches. Our kids should be fed for free.
Let's talk about Oklahoma's education system. Where we started, where we are now, and who got us here. Hi, I'm Amanda McClellan, and if you're here for Oklahoma news, how to thrive as a blue dot in a red state, and how to engage locally, you are in the right place, and let's get into it. Once upon a time, Oklahoma was a leader in public education. Shocking, I know, because now we're the leader in Project 2025. Under Democratic leadership in the mid-20th century, our schools were funded, teachers were paid fairly, and our students ranked among the best in the region. We invested in our kids and it showed. Starting in the 1990s and accelerating into the 2000s, Republicans took control of the state government. And that's when things started to decline.
See, this is the part nobody wants to hear. Oklahoma used to have good schools back when education was actually funded and teachers were paid a living wage. Then the budget cuts started in the 90s, and by the 2000s, the whole system was gutted. Tax breaks went to corporations while classrooms lost. Teachers and the people who made those decisions keep getting voted back in. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a public record you can look up yourself. If your mechanic kept breaking your car every time you brought it in, you'd find a new mechanic. But somehow in politics, we just keep handing the keys back to the same people and acting surprised when the engine explodes.
Instead of funding our schools, they slashed education budgets to give tax breaks to corporations and the wealthy. They cut teacher pay, leading to a mass exodus of educators to states that actually pay a living wage. By 2018, Oklahoma teachers were walking out in protest, demanding the bare minimum. And even after that, Republican lawmakers still failed to make meaningful, long-term investments in education. So where are we now? Oklahoma is consistently ranked one of the worst states in the country for education. Our teachers are underpaid, our schools are underfunded, and our kids, they're paying the price. Republicans have controlled the state legislature and the governor's office for over a decade. They own this crisis. They own this crisis. But here's the good news. We don't have to accept it. Oklahoma can invest in education again. We can elect leaders who actually care about kids, teachers, and the future of our state. But that starts with you getting informed, getting engaged, and voting for change. This all leads back to the soapbox that I'm on, that it's time to get busy. It's time to quit talking. It's time to get to action. It's time to get off social media and placing blame. And it's time to put boots on the ground and get to work. Oklahoma has not always been like this. And we don't have to continue to be like this. Our kiddos deserve so much better.
She said something that honestly needs to be framed on a wall. Quit talking and get to action. Because here's what happens in every state like Oklahoma. People complain online, they share posts, they get angry in comment sections, and then nothing changes. The school board meetings are empty, the local elections have 20% turnout, and the same people stay in power. If you're not showing up to vote in your local races, you are part of the problem, period.
Hey y'all, and welcome to Politabrawl. My name is Brian, and Representative Beecham, out of the great state of Oklahoma, completely wrecks Representative Thanadar over the idea of illegal immigrants obtaining CDL licenses. This is a problem. Let's dive in.
This past weekend, a convicted felon with bone spurs illegally attacked Iran, launching a protracted war of regime change. And this subcommittee, rather than focusing on how Trump's war threatens the homeland, is holding yet another hearing on demonizing hardworking immigrants. I am disturbed and offended that the Trump administration is responding to American Truckers United's call to eliminate trucking operators from foreign lands. The Department of Transportation is actively trying to strip refugees, asylees, and DACA recipients of their commercial driver's license under the false pretense of highway safety. And it from what you're telling me, it seems like most of the 99% of the collisions, accidents are as a result of by U.S. citizen drivers or permanent resident drivers. Is that true?
Thank you for the question. The Trump administration has identified 17 examples, as I said, of documented immigrants who've caused fatal crashes, but there are over 4,000 in a year. So that's less than 1%, meaning the vast majority is caused by U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents.
Thank you.
Less than 1%? Let that sit for a second. Out of over 4,000 fatal trucking crashes the administration found, 17 involving undocumented immigrants, 17 out of 4,000, and we're restructuring an entire industry over it. Meanwhile, the other 99% caused by citizens and legal residents gets zero attention. If you ran a business and 99% of your problems came from one source, but you spent all your resources fixing the 1% source, your board would fire you on the spot. That's not problem solving, that's theater, and the audience keeps clapping.
Gentleman's time has expired. He yields. So I just want to follow up, and this is more than anecdotal. Again, going to the theme of allowing additional time for questions is a tragic example. Sheriff Del Toro is the individual who made the U-turn. He was here illegally. He failed his commercial driver's license 10 times in a matter of 2 months, then yet goes to the state of California, obtains his commercial driver's license, and immediately, within a very short time frame, leads to the tragic end that you know of in your county.
Correct.
So if someone's not willing to concede that the lack of speaking English, the lack of skill is evident, and really zeroing in on California and Pennsylvania and New York, who's failing 50% of their CDL non-domiciled, we know, are here illegally. Our attention needs to really be focused there.
Anti on that. We need to be blaring out 18-wheeler by Alabama morning, noon, and night, and reminding the American people that, hey, there is dignity in your blue-collar work, and we need to be offering an extra hand to these folks who are actually doing the heavy lifting. I can't do it because I'm not built for that. You don't want someone like me in an 18-wheeler, but you need to start creating. We need to start creating a world where not only is that possible, but it's doable, likable, workable. You can make good money with it. The trucking industry is having a deluge of people that can't properly speak English, but they're able to drive the trucks? That is a literal public health crisis. We have an issue with H-1B visas. We've got an issue with our blue-collar pipeline, and yet the pipeline for trans identities, the pipeline for just radical leftist nonsense keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We have to shut that down and build a new pipeline instead.
This is where it always goes sideways. Start talking about trucking safety, which is a real issue that affects real families. Then somehow in 60 seconds, we're at trans pipelines and radical leftist nonsense, bro. You were making a decent point about blue-collar jobs and CDL standards, and you just drove it off a cliff. This is why nothing gets fixed. You can't stay focused on the actual problem long enough to solve it because the culture war content performs better. Your roads are crumbling, your schools are broke. But sure, let's talk about that instead.
This is a call to action. We've got to start building things again. And that starts not in the immediate, snap a finger, it's going to happen. No, it starts when we start realizing that our schools have been co-opted by leftist nonsense agitators and radical nut jobs. And we can start rebuilding. We can actually do this. We have methods in place. We have groups like the Colson Fellows who are instrumental in trying to reorient people to the reality that, hey, we've sort of been co-opted and captured. We can shake off our shackles and think in a new direction. We have got to start doing this as a nation because what's going on here, what Breachin is talking about, he's from Oklahoma. Have you ever noticed not the taillights, the truck tags? Do you know how many truckers are based out of the state of Oklahoma? I can't give you the number, but the amount of guys that I just keep noticing over and over again, it's got to be around 40 to 50%. It just has to be. Oklahoma is a major trucking state, and that's sort of the beating heart of the American nation. And I just, again, the absurdity of me just happening to wear a Buc-ee's shirt today just reminds me of how tied we are to our interstate system. And even that has been co-opted by the left. We can stop this, and we can build in a better way. That is the American ideal. We can do this. We've done it before, and we'll do it again. But folks, let me know what you think down in the comments below. My name's Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibro. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Till then, y'all have a good one.
If you are naive enough to think that the pause to SNAP benefits on November 1st isn't going to affect you because you don't receive food stamps, I want you to hear this. About 1 in 8 Americans receive SNAP benefits. In fact, in Oklahoma, where I live, that's 1 in 6 people. So about 600,000 people in my state alone, Oklahoma, receive SNAP benefits. About 1 in 4 children in the U.S. receive SNAP benefits. But you're not one of those people, so you don't care, but hang with me. When those benefits go away, just about $9 billion in grocery spending vanishes. So you got to be thinking about not just the grocery stores being able to stay open and pay their employees, but you have to think about the entire supply chain, trucks on the road, people who provide food to these grocery stores. $9 billion. Every dollar spent in SNAP benefits adds about $1.50 to $1.80 to the economy. So cutting those benefits isn't saving that dollar, it's taking away that $1.50 to your local economy. But you don't receive SNAP benefits, you don't work for a grocery store, you don't drive a truck, you don't give a shit. But when all of those things happen, the only way to combat that is to drastically increase the price of groceries.
She is breaking down economics in a way that should be mandatory viewing. $9 billion in grocery spending doesn't just disappear quietly. It takes everything with it. The stores close, the truck drivers lose routes, the warehouse workers get laid off, and suddenly, your prices go up. Even though you never received a dime in benefits, every dollar in SNAP generates $1.50 to $1.80 in local economic activity. So cutting it doesn't save money, it removes money from your community. And when she said I thought they were supposed to go down day one, yeah, that landed. Grocery prices are up 3% in 2025 alone, which is nearly a full percentage point above the 20-year average. The math doesn't care about your politics.
Grocery prices are already up over 3% in 2025 alone, which is almost an entire percentage higher than the average increase in grocery prices over the last 20 years. I thought they were supposed to go down day one, though. So even if SNAP benefits only pause for 1 month, which, by the way, would be detrimental to all the people I mentioned before that you don't give a shit about, it will cost the economy roughly $13 to $14 billion in profit. And you can expect your grocery prices in just that 1 month to go up at least 1%. And states will stand to lose about $300 to $500 million in sales tax revenue. So even if you do not receive SNAP benefits, you never have, you never will, you do not want these to be paused on November 1st.
Tulsa, Oklahoma passed a $94 million bill to upgrade their own water meter systems right around the time that Mark Wayne Mullen bought Badger meters. Tulsa, Oklahoma is the state that Mark Wayne Mullen represents. He's a senator of it. So then you're like, EPA passes thing, senator buys stock, senator's home state gives $100 million to upgrade water meter systems. Pro for Badger meters, stock is up 50%.
Somebody explain this to me like I'm 5. Senator buys stock in a water meter company, then his home state passes a $94 million bill to upgrade water meters, and that stock jumps 50%. If your neighbor did this at their job, they'd be in handcuffs by Tuesday, but when it happens in Congress, it's just Tuesday. This is your tax money flowing directly into the portfolio of the guy you elected to protect your tax money.
Hey everybody, it's Cindy Munson. Over the last couple of days, I have been posting about the looming cuts to Medicaid and its impact on Oklahoma. Now that the legislation is passed and sits on the president's desk, over 160,000 Oklahomans will lose their health insurance. Rural hospitals will be at risk of closing their doors and ending services. Veterans, children, the elderly will have less access to nutritional foods with the cuts and changes to SNAP. It is deeply disappointing and frustrating. But here's what I know. As long as we keep pushing for better and working together, I know that we can fight for a brighter future. It doesn't have to be this way. We deserve better. And I promise that I will keep working every single day to make sure of it. I hope you have a safe and happy...
160,000 people losing health insurance, rural hospitals on the verge of shutting down, veterans and kids losing access to nutrition. She's laying out the consequences, and there's no spin here. These are just numbers. The people who will be hurt the most by these cuts are the same communities that showed up and voted for the politicians making them. And that's not me being smug. That's genuinely heartbreaking because most of these folks were promised the exact opposite of what they're getting.
Here's the land that they're planning on taking. Oklahoma. On December 20th, 25, 344 UN officials from 38 countries gathered in Montreal, Canada, and signed a document they say could impact landowners worldwide and especially in the United States. They described it as a balanced, pragmatic, powerful, and transformative package of solutions. This agreement includes 62 decisions, actions, promises, along with 23 action-oriented targets to reach by 2030. Supporters say the goal is to protect ecosystems and expand conservation areas. Critics worry that large-scale conservation goals could affect land use and private property rights. As John Quincy Adams warned, without private ownership of property, you will not have liberty or freedom. Many believe it's important to stay informed and engaged when politics affecting land and property are discussed. Here's the land that they're planning on taking. Oklahoma.
If you are naive enough to think that the pause to SNAP benefits on November 1st isn't going to affect you because you don't receive food stamps, I want you to hear this. About 1 in 8 Americans receive SNAP benefits. In fact, in Oklahoma, where I live, that's 1 in 6 people. So about 600,000 people in my state alone, Oklahoma, receive SNAP benefits. About 1 in 4 children in the U.S. receive SNAP benefits. But you're not one of those people, so you don't care, but hang with me. When those benefits go away, just about $9 billion in grocery spending vanishes. So you've got to be thinking about not just the grocery stores being able to stay open and pay their employees, but you have to think about the entire supply chain, trucks on the road, people who provide food to these grocery stores. $9 billion. Every dollar spent in SNAP benefits adds about $1.50 to $1.80 to the economy. So cutting those benefits isn't saving that dollar, it's taking away that $1.50 to your local economy. But you don't receive SNAP benefits, you don't work for a grocery store, you don't drive a truck, you don't give a shit. But when all of those things happen, the only way to combat that is to drastically increase the price of groceries. Grocery prices are already up over 3% in 2025 alone, which is almost an entire percentage higher than the average increase in grocery prices over the last 20 years. I thought they were supposed to go down day one though. So even if SNAP benefits only pause for 1 month, which by the way would be detrimental to all the people I mentioned before that you don't give a shit about, it will cost the economy roughly $13 to $14 billion. in profit. And you can expect your grocery prices in just that 1 month to go up at least 1%. And states will stand to lose about $300 to $500 million in sales tax revenue. So even if you do not receive SNAP benefits, you never have, you never will, you do not want these to be paused on November 1st.
You know, there's something that a lot of people haven't thought about because the politicians, they don't want you to ask them questions. But I want you to ask them. Ask them why they allowed the Chinese government to come in and buy up Oklahoma farmland. Are they on the take? Are they being paid under the table, or are they just that dumb? Or they just don't have enough foresight? Because if they don't have enough foresight, they need to step aside and let somebody like me take that governor's seat. Because see, I'm already worried. I'm already worried about these data centers that the politicians don't want to talk about. I'm worried because I want to know who's behind them. Because that's something that the politicians, they never asked whenever all these marijuana grows were going up. They never asked. They didn't think about that. Either they didn't think about it or they were paid off. Got to follow the money.
Finally, somebody asking where the money goes, who's behind the data centers, who approved Chinese companies buying Oklahoma farmland. Why did nobody ask questions during the marijuana grow explosion? Follow the money is the smartest 3 words in this entire video. Because every scandal, every bad deal, every policy that screws regular people, there's always someone on the other end getting paid. And if your representative can't answer basic questions about who's profiting off deals in their own state, they either don't know, which makes them incompetent, or they do know, which makes them complicit. Either way, you deserve better. Oklahoma voters are waking up, and honestly, it's about time. Defunded schools, gutted healthcare, SNAP cuts that will spike grocery prices for everyone, and elected officials getting rich off insider deals. The pattern is right there if you're willing to see it. So my question for the comments is simple. At what point do you stop voting for the team and start voting for results? Drop your answer below. I want to hear especially from people living this every day. Like, share, subscribe.